My identity in Christ has completely shifted the way that I see myself and the impact that I can have in the world. You know, when God speaks in the word, he always talks about nations. He always talks about generations. He's never local. He said, ask me of the nations and I will give it to you. He didn't say one. He realized that you are the daughter of the King of Kings. You are made, you were born to take territories. Towards the end of the year, I run this campaign with a clothing brand, Lady Bieber, and every year for the past 5 years, we have run campaigns, showcasing women, telling different stories. And towards the end of last year, we're thinking, what theme are we going to go with in 2023? And somehow it just came, to us that, okay, this is a season where a lot of people are moving out, and what does that mean to a lot of women and business owners? And then we decided to do the Beyond Borders campaign, and essentially it's just to talk about this, that okay, what's happening right now? A lot of people are looking for greener pastures. What does that really mean to a career woman, an individual, a business owner? What does that mean? Do you necessarily need to go out? Do you need to be here? Are there ways to go about it? So, and that's, of course, spilled into different conversations that we have with different women. And one of the things that it did for me personally is to, of course, in the beginning, I used to think, why is everybody leaving? And, we're supposed to be here to build our nation and all of that. But I think the Holy Spirit just opened my eyes to, that there are actually several dimensions to this. And, just to make me see that God is very intentional. I believe that God is very intentional with Nigeria, and God really, really loves our country. And that this season that looks like, a lot of things are just not, God is still working. So yes, the first thing is us even understanding that, yes, we were born in Nigeria, we were raised here. There are a lot of things we have to add to here, but we're actually global citizens. That is one. Right? And global citizens in the sense that you are positioned somewhere to use the resources in that place to solve global problems, not necessarily to solve just within your own estate. So the first thing first is understanding and having the mindset that things have shifted, right? And in whatever business that you are doing, it's not just about you right now and your locality. The world needs you. So because the world needs you, you cannot just do anything with a myopic mindset and say, I just want to reach people in Lagos. I just want to reach people in Nigeria. There are people in Côte d'Ivoire that need that. There are people in Europe. There are people in, Antarctica, that need African solutions to world problems. So when I got that, I was like, wow, the Japa is not just Japa physically. It's like in whatever sector you are, Japa in your mind. Wow. Do you understand? Like Japa in your mind. It's not just about here. I'm raising people from this nation that are going to have global impact, that they're going to be here and things will be happening all over the world. Now, there are the people that I'm going to need to leave, because he also directed me to, Isaiah, I think it's Isaiah 60:11, said the wealth of the Gentiles will come to you. There will be transference of wealth, right? And for that to happen, there are people that are going to need to leave and go and understudy, like Moses, right? Moses was born in Egypt, but he was not. Do you get what I'm saying? And he was not an Egyptian, but he needed to grow and be raised there to understand how he was going to solve the problem of, the Israelites there. So there are those people, right, that would need to leave and go to these countries. There are those people that are going to be here and talent will be exported globally. And they're also going to be the people that are going to hold the fort, which are going to be the builders that are going to still be here. So there are several dimensions to it. And if we don't open our minds to see that, it's actually nothing wrong, right? If you block it, you are blocking what is supposed. It's like when there's a shift in season and you're not sensitive to what is actually happening, and you're allowing your own belief system to stop you because you feel like everything you must be here to help Nigeria. No, we can be anywhere. So that's really what I feel about it. So with photography. One of the things that it did is, first of all, I don't see myself, I'm stuck in Nigeria. If anything, I see myself as, I see myself as a leader in my industry, not just in Nigeria, but internationally. Globally, yes. That even if I am here, right, what I am doing has impact beyond where I am. So I am going to be recognized. I am going to be, respected. I'm going to be rewarded internationally. So I don't see it in the sense that, the people that had to leave are, I'm just staying here just to, no. I'm very open to possibilities because I just believe that, God is just doing so much. You can't just box yourself. And when you box yourself, you sort of miss it. And, the most important thing is at each time, are you aligned to, what God will have you do per time, per season? And are you working with that sense of urgency? Because what can easily change as quickly, and, like when you get something, this is time for me to do this. And you're like, I'll start it another time. You keep procrastinating. Like, there's no time for that because you really don't know what the next 1 year or next 2 years is like. How he says, I'm doing something new. There's always going to be that. With God, there's always something new. Yeah. So this is what it is right now. I'm in Nigeria, I'm doing photography and I'm making the most of, what I have, that I'm here and I'm doing it. I'm doing as much as I can. Is this what is going to be in the next 5 years? I don't know, but I'm open. I'm just a vessel that I just want God to use in whatever dimension that he wants to.
Wow. That was so amazing. I want to talk about, I think from what you just said, what stood out to me is the fact that you would take a global phenomenon or a national thing, something that is happening, and that's not something that people would usually take back to God and be like, God, what are you doing? Where am I in all this? Like, how do you is this what you do about everything? Or is it just that this was just one time? Or like, how are you able to have that mindset of like, again, it tells me about like the kind of relationship that you have with God. Can you just talk a little bit about that? Like being able to take these big questions that we talk about, we just talk about it like it's gist or it's news, but we can actually take it to God.
Yeah.
And
my relationship with God is everything. Yeah. I honestly don't see my life outside him. I'm so dependent on God. Because I just think like there's no other reason to live, if you're not living for God, because, he's the very essence, he's the very reason that I do everything that I do. So, in the times, I love that I can always just go to God and just, get frustrated and just cry and just say, I don't know what this is, and just say, what does this really mean? People are leaving. Am I supposed to leave? Or saying, this is how I'm really feeling about it. I'm not going to pretend that this is not affecting me. Like, it's affecting me. Do you get what I'm saying? Or I'm afraid, I don't know what the future is going to hold. But, the beautiful thing is that every single time God will direct me back to his word. God will direct me back to his word. And, and the word says that, as long as the heavens and earth remains, seed time and harvest will not cease. And also, the word of God is the only thing that will stand. So I love that God is my everything. Yeah, there's no part of my life that is not connected to God, that I feel like, oh, this part is outside it. So I just take everything to him. And somehow, he helps me make sense of things, And even when he doesn't, I just trust that, my Father loves me. And that's really enough.
And how were you able to, I feel like I still want to talk about the immigration thing.
Sure.
But just as a follow-up question, how have you been able to build that intimacy with God to where it's not just like a routine? There are people that can pray for hours and can they do their morning devotion, they tick all the boxes, right? But they don't have this level of confidence that you have in that relationship and that connection that you have with God. How were you able to do, to build? Obviously, I know it's not a step-by-step, but what's your story?
Yes. First of all, my relationship with God is just based on love. I love God so much. I don't know how to, it's not like, oh, I literally love God with my life. I write to God every day. Like I have on my note, I have a date with my Father. And every single day, I just I pour my heart out.
Where did that come from? Have you always loved God?
No, I haven't.
So how did you?
So I was just. So of course, it took me through a journey, a really, really painful journey, and I think it was just something to call my attention to take me back to Him. So I think it was in. Probably 2018, 2019, I went through a very dark season in my life, which I thought that I was actually going to die because I was depressed, right? I was working, I was doing a lot of things, but I feel like I was dead and leaving because nobody knew, just maybe a few people knew what I was going through, but I was going through, when you say you're going through the valley of the shadow of death, I was literally going through that. And I lost myself and I lost who I thought I was. I was so close to, and it wasn't like someone was going to physically, someone was physically strangling me, but I knew that I was losing. I had just had my second baby. I was going through huge depression. I remember I would carry her. She was 5 months old, and then I would be crying, and I'll start talking to her, and I'm just telling her, you're such a beautiful baby. I don't know if I'm going to see you again. And, we just had this moment, and there was a time I was in the bathroom and I was just crying. I was like, God, I don't think I'm going to go on anymore. I think I'm, just going to be that. And, he just keeps telling me, I'm here. And then he would direct me to songs. There were different songs that I would be listening to in that season. And he would tell me, I am making you, right? It was just a period of letting me know that for so long, I have have been looking for you. And now I need to literally stop you to turn your attention back to me. So much so that everything in your life will shut down so that you can realize that I am the only reason why you're here. And I need you to be able to get to that point with me for me to be able to do any kind of work with you, because I can't use you in any way. So going through that time, and, that was what really defined, my relationship with God, because I felt like God was the only thing that held my head up the water. Every time he felt like I was drowning so deeply, and he would send people to me. And, he would send people to me. And it was the time in my life that I just realized that, I could actually hear God. I could, God would speak to me and say, this is what this is. This is what this is, and the voices I'd been hearing before was just actually the voice of God that has been leading me all through my life. But this time around, it was now very clear that I am not, you are, when you said you're a chosen generation, like you're not, I have chosen you for something. I don't know how to describe it, but, you are my child. It was just so vivid. I almost don't know how to explain, because again, I'm sure a lot of people feel this way about God, but I have that, I have that personal, like, it's just me and God. And that's why God is just so amazing, because he has this personal relationship with 1 billions and billions of people. And you just feel like it's just only you and your father. And, so that was what defined how much I love God. So I don't do anything outside that love. And that love is what defines everything. That's, I know that I'm not perfect. I know that I'm weak. I can always go back to him and say, in my weakness, your strength is made more perfect, and I can't handle this. Help me. I don't know anything. Like, my life does not exist outside God. So that season in my life, really changed. It changed me completely. And a lot of people that knew me then knew that something had changed. Yeah.
Was that something that happened with one encounter, or was it like you said, a journey?
It was a journey. It was a journey. It was a long journey. It was almost 2 years. Yeah.
And then you look back and you're like, wow, like we've really come a long way.
Exactly. Yeah. And I look back and I'm like, wow, like you literally pulled me up. Mm-hmm. Yes, we've come a long way. But I grew up being very specific about the things that I wanted, because I felt like I had always been led all through my life in certain areas of my life, even going into photography. When in my university days, my last year, just when we were about going into leaving, and where I was with my friends, and they were just saying, oh, so what are you going to do? Where are you going to get a job? And everyone was just talking about how they were going to get this job, get that job. And I'm just like, I don't think I'm going to get a job after NYSC. And I was just telling them that after NYSC, I see it cutting close. That's what I was telling them then. But I wasn't even, like, I wasn't in spirit. Like, nothing. But I just sensed that you're not doing this anymore. And it was so strong.
What did you study?
I studied to be an optometrist. I studied optometry, yes. So I'm a doctor of optometry, yes. Okay. I know, yeah. And I was so good at my classmate was like, it's not possible. You're going to work in this. Because I was one of the best in my class. But I was like, no, I don't see that. That I see myself in entertainment. I see myself in media. I see myself, and people were just like, what are you talking about? And that was just what I was seeing. So I could just see.
I'm literally sure.
I could just see. And then, I knew that was it. So when my NYC was over, I was certain that I wasn't going to get a job. And it wasn't something like, oh, maybe let me just get and see how it's going. I was so sure that was the end of my career and I needed to move on to the next thing. So it was like I would say, I didn't find photography. Photography found me. Like it was God said, I'm calling you into this because this is an avenue that I'm going to use to do work. So as my business, as I became more, of course, got to know God more, became, I started to see the dimensions in which He was working through the work that I do, that it wasn't just about taking pictures, and there was just so much more to it. And, that part I'm always so just in awe of, and it just never gets familiar, because I'm just like, God, how are you this amazing that you use everything? You're not just using, it's not just about pastors, and like you use everything. And God is so hungry to use everything, to use every sector, to use every job, to minister in diverse ways. And, I think He's just looking for willing people who are just ready to surrender and say that, for I'm ready, use me.
Wow. Oof, that's like, there's a lot in what you just said. No, really, because I heard someone saying that, like, ministry is not just the pastor that is standing on the pulpit to minister. He's literally equipping us to go out into the world. That is the church, people sitting on the pews are in church to be equipped so that they can go out and literally be channels for God to reach the world. Absolutely. So somebody who is a school teacher, like, you are literally in charge of or having access to the minds of little children, and you even spend more time with them than their parents sometimes. Somebody that is, for example, I don't know, I heard somebody saying that if I was a toilet cleaner, I would be the best toilet cleaner ever. There was a guy who was I heard the story of somebody who was a garbage collector. He used to collect garbage from people's houses, and he literally impacted so many lives because he was getting in contact with people, having the opportunity to speak with them, minister to them, even if it's just a smile, a hug, a hello, good morning. Nobody ever said good morning to me or whatever, So I really like what you said about, understanding that God wants to use everything and not thinking about our work as just, let me just go and make money. But it's literally a platform and a channel for God to use. Wow. That's exactly what it is. But I believe that everything has to be, in order for you to have that revelation, because it's possible for you to know that, okay, I know this mentally in my head, and I mentally agree, but to really, really know, it takes a level of intimacy with God and also submission on your own part. To be like, okay, I'm like submitting everything.
Because it's because you're now understanding it from a place of, this is not from my accolade. Do you get what I'm saying? Exactly. Do you get? And it brings humility, because you know that, see, outside God, I'm nothing. Like, forget about all these things that you're seeing. I'm just like, when I get into this zone, is God working through me? When I am not, like, it's like when, was he Abraham said, if your presence is not going to go with us, let's not bother going. Because there's, what are we going to do? Do you understand? Because it's the presence that's actually what is giving us. He said, I will work in you to will and to do. So it's like, when with that revelation that, no, it's not me. God is working in me to will. So the ability to do a thing and the skill to do it, it's all from Him. So I don't take this glory to myself. It goes back to Him. So I think that, and also now realizing that there are also many more people. So it's like, arise and shine. I need you to shine so that people can start to catch this thing. Some people will not catch it the way that you caught it, right? In the sense that they got this. Some people will catch it by seeing you shine your light, and they're giving them permission to say, oh my God, this is what now I want to do it. Do you get what I'm saying? Yes. Yeah.
And even like having a model, like,
yes,
because it's like I have an idea
yes.
of what I want to do, but like I don't have a picture.
Yes,
and then
that representation
is how it
so
can be done.
Important.
Yeah,
it's so important to just see someone to say that will make you realize it's possible. That alone, because I remember even when I was trying to go into photography full time, I used to think like, wow, how can people, is this possible to do this full time and this can be your job? Like you're making money from it? Because what I understood growing up seeing photographer was not the life that I had envisioned for myself. I was just seeing people by the street. They were not really serious. It was like you're on the same level. My family photographer when I was 5 years old, he's still in the same place when I was 20 something years. I'm like, this does not demonstrate. Do you understand? Yeah, and I was so hungry for representation. I want to see someone doing this and doing it well, and a female and all of that. And, I still remember when I saw T.Y. Bello on TV, I was just like, what? This is real. This is what she's doing. And I remember what that did for me was like, oh my God. It just gave me so much hope and validation. And it's almost like you needed that, and just God needed that to just encourage me. God, if this is what you want me to do, just encourage me by showing me a sign. Show me somebody that is doing something that will just encourage me that, okay, yes, if I do this, it's okay. Yeah.
Literally, like one scripture is actually in the Bible. In your light, we see light.
Yes.
Like in the person's light, you see your own light.
Yes.
Wow. So amazing. Okay, so I want us to talk about this whole idea of not seeing yourself as a local, basically breaking the boundaries and the borders in your mind, seeing yourself as a local talent, but rather seeing yourself as a global talent.
So what aspect of it do you want to start about?
Okay. So, I mean, maybe in the aspect of creativity, or like how can somebody break the limitations of their mind in terms of like thinking beyond your country where you are. Yes.
Yeah. So I believe that a lot of the things that influences the way, because everything is from the mind. So if you want to change something, you start from the mindset. The reason why we do things the way we do things is because that is what we have fed our minds with, right? So there is the power of people, there's the power of places, and there's the power of principles in sort of helping us to opening us up to possibilities that exist. So for me, I would say for you to be able to have a more open mind and a broader mind to the work that you do or that the work that we do is, first of all, knowing that it is possible and believing that having this deep conviction about who you are and who you have been called to and why you are here. Now, this who you are is not necessarily, it's not geographical in the sense that I'm Yoruba, I'm Igbo, or I'm this, right? My identity in Christ has completely shifted the way that I see myself and the impact that I can have in the world, because I no longer say myself, oh, I'm from this family. Yes, I'm from the family. My parents raised me, but I am, when God speaks in the Bible, he always talks about nations. He always talks about generations. God is never local, He's never local. He said, ask me of the nations and I will give it to you. He didn't say one, He said, Abraham, you and your children's children. So he's you're talking to God about something small. He's like, he's expanding your mind, because he realized that you are the daughter of the King of Kings. I think of us even recognizing the sovereignty of God, that God is God, King of Kings, like he's the God of everything. So if you have that understanding, you can't say that I'm just here. Do you get what I'm saying? You realize that you actually have no boundaries. You are made, you were born to take territories, to take over institutions, kingdoms, territories. And influence is only influence if it's spread. It can't just be localized. And, that's why, even back in the age, people love exploring and conquering different kingdoms because you want to expand the influence that you want to have. Anyway, bringing it back to identity. So having that identity, I think, is so vital, right? Because that is a place that can, once your identity is not strong, it can easily be, of course, that can easily shake. And then, of course, people. I think people are so key to helping us unravel, a lot of, because God uses people to do everything. Yeah. So I would say exposing yourself or, to the right kind of people goes a long way in influencing how you see yourself and how far you can see yourself. Yeah. And then, of course, just exploring also places. Of course, everybody might not have that leverage to do that, but I think even people, and you can explore places not even having to go there geographically. Online, you can actually explore and realize that there's so much happening outside of your small corner. Yeah. Do you get what I'm saying? The internet has made us, it's a global village. So once we just realize that it's a global village, yeah. And, just start to feed our minds with the different ways that things can be done. You don't even have to go there. Yeah. And then, of course, reading and just, because the more we empower ourselves, the more we are good at what we do, the more we are, it's easy for that to be exportable because you're now saying, I want to be so good at this. What is someone in Japan doing? How are they doing this? What is someone in this? What if someone needs my services, wants to do this from here? Would they find this content? Would they be able to connect with it? I mean, the internet has made it so much easier now. You can't just be limited by what you know, because there's so much you don't know. And knowledge is I see knowledge as it opens a lot of doors. Even the word says, my people perish because they lack knowledge. So what knowledge does is that I feel like in our lives, we have many closed doors that we don't know about. When you gain knowledge, no matter how small, something opens up. You know how you like that light bulb? I'm like, like, okay. And you think that this is how far. It's like there is so much. We have so much capacity boxed up inside of us that it's not going to happen miraculously. It's still by gaining more and more knowledge. And with each one, it's like a door is open. And the great thing about now, being aligned with God is that, sort of God starts to give you instructions on things you need to do, as you, get to know him more and, study his word, you need to take that course. You need to learn more about this. You need to go and meet this person. He keeps direct because those are the things that he's like, I need you. There are things that I'm going to put around you so that it can start to unlock things, so that you start to see more and more who you are and what I have called you to be. It's more than this little thing but I'll take you through this journey. Know that it's the process. But as you get to it, you're like, oh, and you just know that, okay, it's time. Things have switched now, right? But you can't get there if you don't start in the small place. And as you're doing the small place, he's exposing you like, okay, you need to still, get up, get this, know this, so that, we can keep moving. Yeah.
And this conversation that you're talking about with God, like interaction, do this, do that, is that just like practically speaking, is that happening constantly? Like God is interwoven, or is that kind of like a weekly or daily thing that you do?
I think it happens as often as I, have his presence. And I think that's one of the things that is so important to me, because God's presence can be anywhere, even in a very noisy place, and so I'm very sensitive to atmospheres. I'm very sensitive to energies and all of those things. And just inviting the presence of God every single time, and it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be doing prayers for a long time. It can just be, thank you, Lord. I know that you're here with me. I acknowledge your presence here, and, just going back to that place of surrendering again, use me, and do this, just short prayers here and there, you're going into somewhere, so just, God, use me. So I think that place of even acknowledging God's presence, that he's here, those little moments. And I think as many times as, we acknowledge the presence of God, he's always, that still small voice is always going to be there, and he wants to lead us every single time. He's not that father. He's such a loving father. He's such a loving father that, even when we are angry, he'll say, okay, be angry. Then afterwards, he's like, okay, go back and apologize. So he's such a loving father. I can't say, oh, this is, but I just know that as long as his presence, as long as God is acknowledged, his presence is acknowledged, he's there.
Yeah. That is so amazing. Like, I remember some weeks ago, I was praying with my friend, and she said, do you have any requests, any prayer requests, after we were done with the prayer session? And I said, I just want to pray I just want to know God more. I just want to experience him more. I want to have a closer relationship with God. And then we had a long conversation about it, and she was telling me how it's funny how that has been, like, a lot of the people she's been praying with and speaking with, that has been like what they've been praying about. And I was like, wow, that's awesome. And then we prayed. And some days later, as I was having my devotion, God was like, I'm as close to you as you want me to be. Like, the intimacy that we have is on you, because, like, I'm always with you, so it's on you to, like you said, acknowledge my presence, speak with me, even when, like, I'm feeling like, oh, I have so much to do, so overwhelmed, just calming down and realizing that God is not far, that, oh, I need to pray. And I'm like, I need to, like, do this work before I reach God. Like, he's literally here now with me, and acknowledging his presence, is what is going to, on a constant basis, is what is going to, like, build that intimacy and that closeness. Yes. And that's something I really admire about you, like, just in this conversation, how intertwined your relationship with God is with everything that has to do with your life. This has been so refreshing. Do you know, one thing I have in my head that has been ringing is Japa in your mind. You said Japa in your mind at the beginning, and, the whole conversation has just been really, really a blessing to me. I'm so grateful. Thank you so much. And I honestly believe that God wanted this to happen, because this is so different from what I had in mind.
Wow.
Yes, it's different, really. And I'm so grateful to God and to you as well. Thank you so much.